Hello and welcome to Back Paddock. Today we are going to look at the SoilMate recommendation process as a bit of an overview. So if you open up SoilMate and go to lab results, once your results have been imported, they should look something like this. What we're going to do is create a recommendation from one of these samples down here. So to start the process, click on the Generate Recommendation for Barcode icon on the right-hand side of the barcode that you want to create a recommendation for. Now my sample is a soil sample, but what I'm going to do is first I need to enter a recommendation name. So I'm going to call this test wheat, the date, and some initials. Then you want to check the information on this first page here. So the one thing that we can change is the soil texture. Now, if you had a soil texture in your lab result, that would be visible here, and you can change that if you think that's not representative of your paddock. And you can click on that overwrite laboratory texture option there if required. So click on next once you're happy with that information. Now we want to select our evaluation table. If you had selected an evaluation table in the order, it would be visible and pre-selected there, but you can change it to create a second recommendation or a third recommendation for the same sample using a new evaluation table. So I am going to do a wheat evaluation. Just want to find one here. I'm going to go Northern Australia. Might try this one and click on OK. I want to select my location for this one. So I'll just see what's available. I'll go with Gundawindi and click OK. Soil type, I'm going to say I've got a grey and brown vertisol. Then click on next. So at this stage here, this is part of our GraiNPlan. So this wants you to enter information so it can give you a better idea of how much nitrogen you might need to apply dependent on your yield. Now, this will only be available for grain evaluation tables, not for other types. So the sample date has been entered from the sample itself. So planting date, I am going to go back to 2018, otherwise we'll see some wild mineralization. So planting date, I'm going to say was a little bit after this one. Now just excuse some really wild time frames I'm going to do here. And my harvest date, what I planted in 2019, I'll just go about here. Excellent. So for my target yield, I can also adjust this one. So I've got a low expected and high. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say 3, 4, and 5 tons per hectare for my expected yield. My target protein, I'm happy with 12 across the board. And my nitrogen transfer efficiency, I'm leaving as 53%. If you did apply in-crop nitrogen, you could tick that box and select the growth stage that it was entered and the harvest index, but I'm going to leave that blank. And then down the bottom here, we want to look at the last bit of information. So my sample, my topsoil sample is a 0 to 10 and has a bulk density of 1.3. If I'm happy with that, I'll leave it. My second sample is a 10 to 60 with a bulk density of 1.4, but I do see here that my second evaluation is incorrect, and that is simply because I did select something else in my sample order. So if I wanted to scroll down and find something suitable, now I do believe there's a subsoil constraints one. Wheat durum subsoil constraints, that is an option. So I can select the same evaluation table as the topsoil, for example, my wheat Northern Australia one, but for this one, I just want to see wheat subsoil constraints, all areas. I'll choose. Once you're happy with everything, click on next. And it's going to ask you for a history. And this is just really to confirm any additional mineralization or anything like that. So if you do have, some manure that you've spread down, you could put that down. I don't have any of that history, so I'm just going to leave it blank and click on next. And then I'm going to click on finish. This is going to go through now and begin that recommendation process. So what it's done is it's taken my results and it's now compared them to that evaluation table and it's plotted out where everything sits. So it's landed on the second of 3 tabs right now, recommendation, but in the top left corner you'll see evaluation, and I'm going to click on that first. And it's on this tab that we really want to look at our results and what the program is suggesting that we do about them. So if I look at colors, for example, anything with this pink color is considered high. this light blue is satisfactory, and the red, if I hover over it, is low. So I can see now from this one and my second column here that the program has suggested an application rate of 100N. So if I scroll down, I can also see that it suggested 4 of sulfur and some gypsum. So this page is really about looking at those results, and then we've got an option to look at some comments. So if I click on my nitrate result here, and click on comments way off to the right hand side, I can see some additional feedback. So if I move this to the side and look at my result, this information here has come from the specific evaluation table that you've selected, and it's an opportunity for you to learn or for you to provide some more information on your recommendation. So if I wanted to, if I thought that this was really relevant for my grower, I could copy this, just Control C, I could paste it down the bottom with Control V, click OK, and it would put that information down in the bottom section here. So if I wanted to, I could add a little heading and just say nitrogen information, make this bold with the little B tool, and then I could change that however I wanted to. So the other thing that you can do on this page, after you've sort of had a review of all of this information, and you can also type any information down here if you want to, type here. So these are comments for your grower. You can also have a look at these suggested rates. So I'm going to leave nitrogen for a second, but I'm going to look at phosphorus. Now, if you see here, this has suggested an application rate of 10p. So what you can do if you disagree with that application rate and would like to try a new target rate is click on the ... to the side of it and change your target application rate. Now, this may be higher or lower depending on your local requirement, and just click OK. You'll see that that goes bright yellow. That's just to indicate that you've made a change to this suggested rate and that you want to achieve a different application rate with your fertilizer program. So on this screen as well, what we can do is look at some of these evaluation models over the right-hand side here. So the GraiNPlan is one that I'm going to look at quickly. So if I just click on GraiNPlan, now this is once again only available because we're dealing with a grain product here. I can have a quick look at this one just by clicking on preview. Now those are the parameters that we entered earlier, the 3, 4 and high yield, the 12 target protein. So what this is saying at an overview level is that my recommended nitrogen rate for my 4 tons a hectare target yield is the 100 kilograms of hectare that we could see on the previous screen. If I thought it was going to be a poor season and I might only achieve the 3 tons per hectare, then an application rate of 60 would be appropriate. Or if I was ready for that bumper crop of 5 tons a hectare, then 140 kilograms a hectare of N would be required to sustain that yield. So it does give you a lot more information about the calculations and things in behind that, but this will be included in your overall recommendation. If I click close window on that one, you can adjust these parameters if you did want to make a change. So for example, your target yields changed, you could change them here, click on calculate, and then it would recalculate your required N rate based on those additional changes to your parameters. So I'm going to close on that one. And I'm going to very briefly look at soil amendments, which is another option available here. So for this one, this is our lime and gypsum calculator. So for example, if I wanted to calculate how much lime I might need to apply to affect a change, I could look at this information here. So in my example, my current pH is 7.8. It's suggesting, a 0 to 10 incorporation rate. So that's 10 centimeters of incorporation for the pH change. I've got a target of 6.5. I did test my OC, so I don't need to enter a non-tested OC, or organic carbon, if you didn't have one. My ENV of my preferred product is 85 here. So if I just hit calculate and then jumped across to LimeMate, actually I'll just jump across to this LimeMate tab here. It is saying that my lime requirement for my target pH increase is of course 0. So if I did manipulate that and just go, once again, a little bit rogue for the purpose of this demonstration, if my soil pH target was 12 and I wanted to hit calculate and over to this lime thing, it would tell me that my lime requirement is 9,700 kilos a hectare. And by doing this calculation, that inputs that lime requirement figure back into the main series of calculations in behind. I will, of course, not adjust my pH to 12. Hit calculate again and hit close. So you can see here that whirls for a second and it's just entered a 0 lime application required rate. Gypsum has a value here, 1420. So back in soil amendments, I'm going to look at SodiCalc inputs here. And this is where you get to work through that. So the bulk density is 1.3. Your target sodium here is 6, magnesium 30, gypsum purity of 80, and that's why it's calculated the required rate as it has, the 1420. So you can adjust those SodiCalc inputs, hit calculate and close, and it will adjust those figures for you. Okay, so once you're ready, so once you're happy with everything that I've done here, we're going to move to the recommendation part of the program. And this is where you're adding products to meet this required rate here. So you can see my 100 of N, my 15 of P, etc. has been copied across here. And now I'm using this fertilizer section off to the right here that's available to add products. So if you know exactly what you're after, you can click on the add button. And you can just click on one letter. So for example, I'm just going to apply some urea. I've got a urea product here. I'm going to broadcast that one. So I need to add an application and a timing comment. I'll just go with pre-sowing. And you also need to add a rate. So I'll just see what happens with this one. Click OK. And then as we can see, I have definitely over applied my urea because I've got an actual of 460 N units in my product instead of 100. So I could just jump that down a little bit, hit enter, and get a closer recommended reading. If you're unsure of which product to use, you can use the wizard off to the right here. I'm going to leave my application type as solid dry. I'm going to say optimize fertilizer and rate. Now this is pretty well the wildcard one. This is saying I'm not sure what to do, but I really want to apply a product that's going to help me with my phosphorus. So I'm going to tick on phosphorus. Click on next. Now this right now is scrolling through the database of all of the products that we have in the system and trying to find the closest match. So it is going to try and hit that phosphorus on the head, but it will also try and match the other requirements for this soil test. So just give that a few seconds to think. And then this is, once again, where your local knowledge comes into play. So it's suggesting that anything with a result closer to 0, so the top of the list, is the closest requirement for what you need. Now, some of these might be interesting. For example, we've got a bean blend here. We've got a tons of crop. We've got a grain legume, a marley mix. So some of these might not be appropriate for your crop, even though the chemistry matches. So this is when you would use your knowledge to say, okay, I am going to apply some MAP here. Click on next, do your application comment and your timing comment. Click on finish. And you can see it has calculated that to get my 15P, I need an application rate of 76.1. So this is clearly not going to happen. So what you might do is you might adjust that to 75, just type in 75, hit enter, or you might jump it to 80, whatever you think is actually going to be an appropriate action for yourself and for your grower. So you'll continue to add any required products for your recommendation. You could add any recommendation comments here. So these might be product comments on how to apply, whoops, can't type today, to apply or any restrictions. And then when you're ready, move on to the details and report section. Now we've got a couple of options here. They come up in this little ribbon toolbar. Quick, short, and full will be the general ones. You might also see an interpreted option for some sample types, which gives you all of the system comments as well as the results. I'm going to leave this as the quick report type. I'm going to leave everything selected on the left, and I am including a page break for every item here. So I'm just going to click on preview now. And OK. And we'll wait for this to come up. Excellent. So once it's loaded, I tend to reduce the size a little bit, just so we can see what we're dealing with, especially while you're working through. So the first page in this quick report type is just a cover page. Now I'm going to use this green arrow at the top to click through. This one here is just a details page for the samples. So next, now we've got the status report for everything. So you can see that we've got both depths included in this report, the 0 to 10 and the 10 to 60, where those results are available. Next page is our recommendation. So this is our product recommendation that I entered using the 4R format. Next page is nutrient requirement. So this is just what the system recommended we apply. Nutrients supplied. Now at this point you can see that not all of these sections might be relevant for you or for your grower, and you can deselect these. Nutrient timing. And then comments. So this nitrogen information comment was the top one that we copied from the first page from our nitrogen information from the system. And then you can see the product comments on how to apply or on your restrictions. The last line there was from our recommendation comments. So you can split them up however you need to. And then the last page, of course, is our GraiNPlan. So this is our N sensitivity analysis. So dependent on the yield that you think you might apply throughout the season would alter your recommended nitrogen rate. If I close window on that one and click on yes, you can untick any of those items that you didn't want to see. So for example, nutrient requirements or timing, and you can change the page breaks as suits. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to preview quickly and show you how to get this out of the system. Okay, so once you've got this looking how you want, you've got a couple of options to get it out. Often the fastest thing might be emailing it to yourself. So you can click on the email icon at the top, type in your email address. You can change the subject if you wanted to. So it might be the actual name of the paddock and click on send. Now that will just email it to you. Your other option is to print. Now we're going to use the printer to both print or save. So I'm going to leave it as this 2XU and click on the print button. And from this option here, the destination, you've got the option to choose your actual local printer or choose save as PDF. I'm going to save mine as a PDF. Click on save. And then you can navigate to your chosen location, give it a name, click save. And then that's saving that recommendation as a PDF on your computer in your chosen folder. So thank you for joining me for the recommendation process. Once you're back at this page here, just save and close to save that recommendation. You can open and edit that later by going to the recommendations tab from the main menu. And you can see it'll just be top of the list here. You can click back in and see that same data entry format. You can make any changes and re-export as required. And like I said, you can also create another recommendation for the same sample if required, if you wanted to compare two different crops, for example. That's all from me. Have a great day.